Welcome to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm Angela.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Emily. We're three life coaches who found connection in faith, friendship, and purpose.
Get ready for real talk, relatable stories, and practical tips you can actually use.
We're so happy you're here at the Life Coach Lounge. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the lounge. I'm here with Emily and Angela, and we are going to talk a little bit today about what it really means to quote unquote do the work. What does it even mean when somebody says that to you in any capacity, whether it's a teacher, a coach, a therapist, your sideline, football coach, doesn't matter. So before we start, though, I think it's always fun when we ask each other some very random questions. So I am just going to ask each of you a question that kind of relates to the topic today. It is about personal growth, but I would love for you to tell me, Angela, what is the most ridiculous piece of self-help advice you have ever received or given?
So this is definitely an opinion, but for me, the most ridiculous piece of self-help advice that I received was sleep when the baby sleeps. To me, that was the time to get stuff done. So I'm also not a napper, so that didn't land for me. But yeah, I just took that one, threw it out the door, and got busy cleaning the bathroom when the baby was sleeping.
I'm just curious if our professional napper feels similar to that comment.
I was going to respectfully disagree with that, Angela. I love you and we are still friends, but I wish I actually would have taken that advice a little more seriously. Now knowing myself a little bit better and realizing a little power nap in the afternoon sets me up for success for the rest of the day. So I would say that's maybe some of the best advice that somebody offered me back when my kids were younger.
Well, you
Oh, I
came
love
at me
it.
there.
I love
Not
it.
that I don't like getting things done. You both also know that I love to do the tasks and get the to-do list accomplished. But yeah, that's interesting. We can agree to disagree.
Yes.
It's not a problem.
I always felt like that phrase, sleep when the baby sleeps, I would have definitely done it. I was always not ready to sleep. I wasn't like it didn't align. So I'm like, well, easy for you to say. I don't have that ability to be like, I think I'll close my eyes now and just, I am kind of like you, Angela. Like, I'm not a good napper. So maybe if somebody had said rest when the baby rests, maybe I would have taken that to heart. But no, I'm having flashbacks right now to, did you bring your babies into like the bathroom when they were like barely moving, like they couldn't roll or anything, and they're like in either their what do you even call those seats? Like a bouncy seat? Like you bring them in because you needed to shower and they were not sleeping. And they were crying. So I just bring them in and play peekaboo behind the shower curtain. Yeah.
That seems
Random
like so long
flashbacks.
ago. I know. And there's so much of that is such a blur for me. So for you to say that it jogged a memory that I haven't thought about for a really long time. Those things about motherhood that you didn't realize. You'd have to get creative in order to get your shower in because you're now responsible for that little one. And
Yep.
yeah, you're right. Their nap didn't always coincide with when you needed to get ready.
Yeah. The random songs I would sing, yeah. Yep. Okay, here's my next personal growth. So, if you had to explain, Emily, personal growth using only a food metaphor, how would you describe that?
I am going with the process of making sourdough bread as the food metaphor for personal growth. There's a lot of trial and error that comes with making sourdough. There's a lot of patience, a lot of waiting to see what unfolds. You have to feed it. You have to feed it the right amount. You have to notice it notice what it's doing. Things might bubble up in the dough, similar to a journey in personal growth. Things are going to come to the surface. It's not always going to look pretty either, and you can't rush the process. So, learning how to make a good loaf of sourdough takes time and patience and, well, work, which is what we're talking about today. So, I think that's a great food metaphor for
Yeah,
personal
I
growth.
love that.
You have to
I
bake
really
it.
wish
It gets a
this
little hot
was.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, it does. Yes.
And why again is this only a virtual lounge? Because I would really love even like your loaves that maybe didn't, you weren't like, oh, that wasn't really the best loaf. Well, bring them on over. Let me be the judge of.
Did I tell you guys what I'm going to be into next? So, my sourdough starter has been in the refrigerator. I don't remember what that's called when you just kind of let it be there. I haven't been feeding it. It's not active, so it's an inactive sourdough starter. But I am looking into buying a grain mill and like actually like wheat berries and
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast about that and how that kind of flour is so much more healthy and easier
It
to digest and has nutritional value to it. And so I might have to start over. Well, I will have to start over once I get my grain mill and start grinding my own flour. That will be a whole new process of personal growth and learning how to make sourdough from fresh ground wheat flour. So stay tuned. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to dive into that yet, but that's on my radar.
So
Since
fun.
I'm
I
not doing
am
Angela's no spending for the year, I'm allowing myself to buy a grain mill.
Stuff for my house. I could buy a grain mill if I wanted to.
I'm so excited about that. I watch so many random reels and YouTube videos on I want to be a sourdough baker and I'm not. I do purchase sourdough. It doesn't bother me as much as other gluten laden breads do. And but I have seen those mills where you're doing all that yourself. Okay, great. Thanks, Emily, for going first. You can share all the wisdom with us. How about you, Angela? Do you have a food metaphor?
So when I met Jim, he hated mushrooms, like hated them. And I always ate mushrooms. So I said, like, what's the deal? And he said, well, yeah, mushrooms make you sterile. So I don't eat them. And I actually believed him for probably the first 3 or 4 years we were married. And then I figured out that that actually wasn't true. And so I went to him and I said, what's the truth? Why don't you eat mushrooms? Because, you know, what you told me is not actually true. And he said, well, the truth is mushrooms grow in poop. So I think the mushroom, because we have the most personal growth when we are going through the poopy times. You know what times, the hard times. And when it's the hardest, we have the most growth. And I mean, mushrooms can be really beautiful. Have you ever seen like the shapes of some mushrooms are incredibly beautiful, flavorful, nutritious. So I think mushroom.
This is going to give a whole new, I'm going to have a whole new thought in my head the next time I say stop shooting all over yourself.
Yes.
Just,
I think we need to have like a t-shirt that says that. And then now I feel like we need to have like a little mushroom character there to go with the, yeah.
New logo.
So for me, I love layers analogy. So whether you're talking about the layers of an onion and you kind of have to just keep peeling back the layers, or if onions are really not your thing, then like even in a parfait, like especially when they're put in those like beautiful, are they like fluted, beautiful display where you're just layering the different fruits and yogurt and different creams and granola and things like that. But the layers and the things that you have to kind of get through to get to the next thing. So that would be my simplistic
The
food.
parfait sounds way better than the mushroom that grows in poops. You're making me hungry.
I don't know.
and an onion, because onions make me cry. So the layers of the onion, the more you get down the
Ooh.
layers of the onion, the more my eyes are burning and I want to just run
Well, there
away.
are tears during personal growth. So that's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, and if you need to, you're in a spot where you're like, I don't have time for this right now to let the tears come up. Here is a extra bonus for this beginning of this episode. So if you're familiar with the Thieves Essential Oil from Young Living, it's proprietary to Young Living. You take that Thieves Oil and you either just open the bottle and set it on your cutting board opened, or you take a toothpick and you dip the top of the toothpick in the bottle of oil so that it's on the bottom of the toothpick. And then you put the toothpick, hold it between your front teeth so that it's sticking out of your mouth. I'm telling you, the next time you cut an onion, I need picture proof or it didn't happen, but I want to know if that works for you,
That's
because
quite a
that
life
is my
hack.
hack. That's my hack when I am cutting up one of those onions that really does make your eyes water. I'll just grab my thieves oil, I'll open the bottle, set it right on the cutting board while I'm cutting, and it is so helpful. I don't know the science why that works, but it does. So
I don't
anyway,
even care what the science is. If it works, I'm doing it. I'm going to try that and I will
Me
send you
too.
pictures or do a Marco video and show you
okay, yes,
in the
I want to see.
process.
And then
Okay.
later, if you need extra support on, I've just cut garlic and onions and I've washed my hands 15 times and I can still smell it. I have hacks for that too. Okay, moving on to doing the work today. So I'm curious, ladies, where were you, or can you remember, like, when you first heard that phrase, you need to do the work? Like, who said that to you? Emily, do you remember who said that to you? For me, it was likely a teacher, like in school, like I wasn't
Yeah.
getting something and they may have assumed I wasn't studying hard enough, doing the work at home, whatever that looked like. For me, that feels like when I first heard that phrase.
That would probably be for me too. Yeah, back in
Yeah,
school, or
back in
like show
school.
your work, show how you
Hmm.
got there to that
Right.
answer. Or even I'm thinking like I did a lot of like musicals and show choir kind of things
Mm,
in high school. So you had to practice. You had to, do the work to be ready for the performance. So I hadn't thought about it in
yeah.
that realm, thinking so much in coaching terms that I'm forgetting that this what we talk about here shows up in real life too.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Angela?
So the word practice came to my mind too. I was in band flute, if you wondered. And I was thinking, they talked about practicing. As far as doing the work, it really started to show up a lot. After I got married, I heard the phrase quite often, marriage is hard work. Marriage is work. Always thought that was really dumb and I hated it when people said that. So but then, like, doing the work came up more when I learned about coaching and Byron Katie's method called the work. I heard a lot more about it when I went to the life coach school and they talked about doing the work. So, but yeah, marriage is work. I never aligned with that. So, this is one that this phrase, it kind of rubs me a little bit wrong.
I was just thinking too, like right now we're taking a break from our women's Bible study at church, but in the fall we'll start up again and we meet once a week. But we always say the most transformation you're going to have is when you do this study between Saturday and next Friday when you come back to discuss it again. And so doing the work daily in even like a Bible study or a book club, doing the work is you on your own pursuing the thing you're working towards and not just showing up to talk about it. You can't talk about it and grow and learn from other people if you haven't already dug into the topic or the content yourself. So that's another place I just thought of.
So, Angela, when you talk about like what that actually means, when you heard about it, like in marriage, what did you say? Like marriage is hard work? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Uh, yeah. So when you think about what that actually means, since you said it kind of rubs you the wrong way, tell me what that actually means to you. Because I am not surprised that that phrase, doing the work, is not the same thing for everyone.
And I think in different areas of life, it means different things for me. But as far as marriage goes, people saying marriage is hard work or marriage is work. I mean, when I think of that, I think of effort and grit and, getting dirty and sweaty and effort and putting a lot into it, like white knuckling it almost. And I don't want that to be part of my marriage. I want my marriage to have more ease and more love and intention, yes. Some hard conversations, yes. But that to me doesn't feel like work. Like marriage is work is a pretty broad statement. So I'm saying no, thank you to that.
Which is really interesting because to me, I commonly say to people, not necessarily marriage, but I believe that anything worth having, any relationship worth having, whether it's your marriage, it's your best friend, it's pick a relationship that means so much to you. I think it is work. I think it's intentional work. And to me, so you were describing like grit and effort and white knuckling and like getting dirty. And I'm thinking like all those things, but more in like the way I might go out and garden. Like I'm going to get sweaty. I'm going to put in the effort. There might be some grit in there depending on what I'm tackling. And then I get to see the fruit of my labor from doing the work. I come from the belief that anything worth something is going to require effort. It's not just going to fall into place and everything's going to be beautiful. So I love that, like how your perception is and how my perception is, because I couldn't agree with you more when you said I also think it depends on what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like what are we talking about right now when somebody says do the work? How about you, Emily, when what makes something qualify for you, like work, quote unquote, or are you just living life, or like what does it actually mean for you?
Yeah, it's interesting as I was hearing both of you talk about that subject because I agree with Angela and also I agree with you, Lisa, in saying, like, yes, I say all the time, yes, marriage is work. And so I looked up the definition as you two were chit chatting because we like to do that here, look up definitions. And it can be something where it's saying, like, well, let's see, there's a lot of definitions here to make way slowly and with difficulty, to move or progress laboriously. But it also says to produce a desired effect or result. So I do feel like the word work itself, and in the context that you're using it, and in the mindset that you have behind it, it can mean a lot of different things. So I'm really curious now if there's another word that maybe would fit more appropriately.
So that's when you put out
Synonyms.
your thesaurus.
Right. I just looked at synonyms. Like the word create is a synonym.
Love
And I
that.
think, and then cause, bring, generate, produce, prompt, do. So I see work as like this action piece. Like we're working towards a goal. Like if we're talking about marriage. So I can see how it can have either a negative or a positive connotation when you simply just say doing the work or marriage is work. I think that's something that is worth a conversation.
And I think that one of the reasons why I kind of brought this up this week in our Marco's conversations is because personally, this phrase has come up a few times in my own personal life with my family, with my friends. And in some instances, defense was in the conversation. So if I said to the other person, well, your results are a direct result from your thought about the work that you are or are not doing, the actions that you're taking, the person got defensive and was like, well, what do you even mean? I don't even know what that means to do the work. Like, what does that even mean? Whereas in another instance with another family member, this person is intentionally doing work on themselves and so brought it up in conversation that by doing the work, I am seeing this results. So I think you're absolutely right that you can have a word, work, and the way it is used in context and or situation, circumstance, be perceived to either rub you the right way or the wrong way. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think it has to do with the emotion behind it because there is
Mhm.
work that is enjoyable that I wouldn't even say like this isn't work. This I'm enjoying this versus work that you just have to do. It has to get done. Like gardening. I love the benefits of gardening. I don't always love being out there weeding and being hot and sweaty, but it is, then I think this is work, but so I wonder if the emotion behind it for me has something to do with the word work.
Which leads me to another kind of comment question I have. So, do you think that it's just because of the emotions that are behind that circumstance that's happening, why people feel like it might be so hard or overwhelming? I mean, I'm trying not to just relate it to something that happened in my personal life in the last week, but like, what do you think? Like, I wrote down in thinking about this episode, like, to me, that phrase, okay, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Like, okay, here it is. And to me, that circumstance can be like what Angela just described. It can be perceived like, let's not talk about the elephant in the room because I'm going to look over here. Or it could be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Can we talk about the elephant in the room?
Yeah.
So how does that land for you, Emily?
Yeah, I can totally resonate with what you just said. And along with what Angela was saying, the emotion behind it, there has to be a motivation too. So I think anytime the phrase you need to do the work comes up, it's when your current circumstances find you in a place of discontent, or maybe you're unhealthy, or maybe you need to make some changes to produce a different result in your life. But to get to that different result, there's work involved to get from point A to point B. There isn't a magic button that you can push, the easy button, right? Like they sell it at the office supply store, but in
Right.
real life, there isn't an easy button. And so I think there's resistance when it comes up when saying, well, you need to do the work to make that change in your life, to get to that different result, whether that's a job change or a fitness level or healing from some trauma or emotional upset that you've had. I think that idea of having to go through the dark valley, the deep valley of the work to get to the other side, of course, there's resistance there, right?
I
And
know.
that's why we have people like therapists,
Yeah.
coaches, teachers, loved ones to help us along the way. But I think the result has something to do with it too. How motivated are you to get to the other side of this? And do you have
I
the
know
resources to get you there?
personally in therapy and having to quote unquote do the work, I that totally resonates for me. And even so in coaching, when I get coached on things as well, it's that fear of learning something new or discovering something about myself that I don't want to. Like, it's that resistance you were talking about to, and our brains like to protect us. So the brain is just resisting, thinking it's just protecting us from something. That change isn't bad. It's actually pretty neutral, but it's our response to it. So yeah,
I
I
think
definitely
sometimes
felt that way.
I think sometimes too, I know this for me personally. I know I'm up in my head all the time. I know the logical side of my brain is constantly offering me thoughts and trying to figure things out and trying to come up with a solution. And so I also know then me stopping and actually feeling emotions in my body, turning off that thinking part of my brain. I don't have not really known how to do that. I'm learning how to do that. So sometimes it's not even like you don't want to. Sometimes it's you've been operating this way for so long, you don't know how to.
Yeah.
And so you need other people that are skilled to help you walk through that to balance out what's happening in my brain so that it doesn't go on the crazy train of thoughts that are not serving me. So sometimes I think the resistance piece is also because we just truly don't know how.
So
True.
one of the things I wanted to ask Angela to kind of share with us. She helped me this past week with fear and doubt, all the things you were just describing, Emily. That was my quote unquote logical brain just going on, that default loop. Can you talk a little bit, Angela, about you giving me the suggestion of like one way to approach when somebody says, "What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means to do the work." And of course, it's hard to do what Emily was just saying, like to get from your default of like the world is bad and doom and gloom to everything's happy and everything's sunny. And so this week you encouraged me to come up with, in the coaching world, what we call a bridge thought. And then I broke it down into like lily pad like thoughts so that I could get one little step at a time. But could you talk a little bit, Angela, about what that is? What's a bridge thought?
So a bridge thought would be, say, every day I'm thinking, I hate my body. I'm just making something up here. Every day I think I hate my body. I can't just jump to I love my body as a new thought because I don't believe it. So a bridge thought would be something like, I'm practicing loving my body, or I'm so thankful I have a body. So it's something you believe is true, and it's moving you towards the new thought that you want to embrace. So yeah, I love that. Calling it a lily pad thought. That's so fun. I hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah, that helps my brain. Like just like when you have beautiful lily pads like near your
I
where
do.
you go out on your walk. So I love to just think like what kind of like when I'm working with younger children, like just one step at a time. Like so yeah, so the lily pad kind of helps my crazy brain.
Yeah. What are some other, I mean, to say like I'm practicing or I'm learning,
I loved
you know,
creating.
yes,
Emily said creating, like when you
I'm
were like giving
creating
words earlier.
more love for my own body. Yes. Anything like that, that you can just believe it, it's true. And it gets you unstuck from that thought, like you said, Emily, the habitual thought that you have on default.
One of the ones I used to think a lot was when I was first a mom, when my son was born, like whenever you felt like I'm not doing it right, or you're comparing yourself to what other people might suggest with the kindness of their hearts, but then you're like stuck in that comparison, like, well, they did it and I'm not doing it. So, like, I would always immediately go to, I'm such a bad mom. Those were tough times for,
Yeah.
for sure. And if someone at that time would have encouraged me or even shared with me the whole bridge thought scenario to like I'm learning, I've never done this before, I've never been in this place before doing this particular fill in the blank. So
And it immediately shifts your emotions
mhm.
from that, like you
Yeah.
said, the resistance, the shoulds. I hate my body, whatever it is. I should work out. And you have so much resistance and so much negative emotion. And just softening the edges. I'm learning to love my body. The resistance almost falls away with that too.
In the word again, work, doing the work, again, depending on the circumstance, your perception of the circumstance and your thoughts about it, it's going to feel like in that situation I just described, like I just wanted to, it wasn't so much about, I felt like a bad mom. And also, like, I had to people please everybody else around me to show that I wasn't a bad mom. So it's like so many things happening.
What would we have done with these coaching tools 30 years ago, girls? I mean, come on.
Can you
We
even
would have
imagine?
conquered the world.
So I wrote down this little note just because when Angela micro coached me this week to encouraged me to come up with a power thought, I combined my thought with a little bit of scripture. So kind of taking either the lily pad scenario or a staircase scenario and putting it in play. So I wrote down Psalm 37, verse 23, the Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him. So, for example, a tangible thought, just for listeners who are like, I still don't know what you're talking about, would be I don't have to see the whole staircase in front of me to take the next step. God sees what I cannot see, and He is making a way even when I can't perceive it. My job is to simply take the next step in front of me, trusting that He is ordering my steps.
He is doing the work. Is that what you're saying?
That is doing the work. That is doing the work. It's still, I love that we just like kind of just took that word and or that phrase and just kind of broke it down into those lily pads or into other synonyms that could be used in those moments. But yeah, I mean, even if you're walking up a staircase, it's still work. You're still putting in effort. You're still moving forward. Okay, do either one of you, as we get ready to wrap this up, have any other key takeaways from our phrase for this podcast episode? I think this was such a good one. I already have like new perception on that phrase. So when I hear it and or catch myself saying it, I am going to now intentionally likely change out the word work.
Yeah, I like the synonyms. I like the create.
Yeah.
It fosters that possibility and the hope for what could be. And I was thinking when you two were talking about, like, if you sign up to run a 5K, like they have a couch to 5K program because you don't just go run a 5K. You
Right.
could, but you're going to be hurting and it's probably not going to be very enjoyable. And I don't know that I've never done that program before, but from sitting on the couch, not being a runner at all, to running a 5K, it's one day at a time. It's maybe walking a mile the first day. Maybe it's walking just down your street and back for the first day. But it's that forward momentum. And with every day, when you commit to quote unquote doing the work to reach that 5K status, you build that resiliency. And that's what we do in everything you talked about too. Finding a bridge thought is building resiliency so that maybe you can get to that next lily pad thought. So that building resiliency gets you there one step at a time. So I just thought there was a correlation there with fitness or strength training or training for a marathon. There's not an easy button for that either. You just break it down into steps and it's doable for anybody.
Yeah, so true. Angela, do you have anything to add?
No, but I was just thinking about, my like thoughts about the word work and, like Emily was just saying with exercise, when I'm really lifting heavy weights and feeling my muscles start to quiver, it feels like work. It really does. But when I'm out taking a walk and the weather is beautiful and I'm out in nature and it doesn't feel like work. It's so enjoyable. Don't call it working out. I call it taking a walk. So I think pay attention to the emotion that comes up when you have certain thoughts, when you're told to do the work. Maybe you can shift your thinking into something that just feels different and produces a different result for you.
Yeah, I love that. All right, ladies, that's all the time we have here today in the lounge. So thank you for indulging me in my question of what are your thoughts on the phrase do the work? And I would encourage not just each other, but everyone to take to heart what Angela and Emily just shared at the end of this episode and think about what is the next small step I can take and how does it feel when someone says to me, you just have to do the work. Because if it's not landing well for you, you get to decide how to rephrase that, knowing that, okay, I actually do have to do the work, but how do I want to feel better about it?
And be curious instead of defensive.
Yes, yes. So thank you, ladies, and thank you everyone for joining us in the lounge today. As always, if something resonated with you today, we would be ever so honored if you would share this episode with someone that you think might need to hear it, or maybe you have told to do the work. I'm speaking for myself. And you can follow us along on Apple, Spotify, and we are YouTubers now. So you can listen on YouTube as well and see our faces if you'd like to put our voices with a face. You can connect with any of us on Instagram at the Life Coach Lounge. And of course, you can always connect with any of us personally in any one of our social media accounts, which are listed below. And until next time, we're so grateful to walk alongside of you and your journey, and we will see you next time in the lounge. And ladies, I will see you later in the Marcos.